Well, welcome to the next season. Apparently it's season 4 of Sailing Calypso. We arrived back 2 weeks ago from South Africa. Flew to Washington, and then from Washington to Richmond, and then Ubered down. And what was quite nice is we got in around about lunchtime. In fact, before lunch. So we managed to sort the boat out quite quickly. I was worried because the boat had been on the hard for 9 months, and boats aren't meant to sit for that long. It was also right under a tree, so we had a lot of pine needles all over the boat and a lot of pollen. Spring has sprung in the US. This belt where we're in Virginia is apparently one of the highest pollen producing regions. So if you suffer from any allergies, this is the worst place to be. The guys were telling me, the locals were saying that I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, the pollen was so thick on the water and on the roads, it was like yellow snow. And when a car drove, you could see tracks. It wasn't that bad when we got it, but there's this little, you find yellow dust in pretty much everything. The other thing that I was worried about was getting gas, propane, because our cylinders, I thought they'd run out. We had a little bit of propane in one, but I managed to get a lift with a cruiser to the Tractor Supply, which is about 45 minutes drive from Deltaville, and we filled up our propane tanks, our gas tanks, speaking American here, so we could braai and cook. In that exercise, I discovered that my composite gas cylinder for the braai was damaged. The valve was damaged, and he wouldn't fill it. South Africans have an issue filling tanks, South African tanks in the US. It's fine across the Caribbean and in the Bahamas and everywhere, but in the US they've got quite stringent regulations, and your gas or propane tanks have to be certified every so often. Yeah, I mean, be that as it may, we've actually managed to have ours filled twice. Once at a U-Haul and one this year at the Tractor Supply. So arriving back, I think all the things that I was worried about, stressing about, actually were non-issues. I think there's a lesson in that. The boat was a bit moldy, but nothing that we couldn't handle. And I think we settled in quite quickly into a routine. It's tough being on the hard, because you've got to climb up and down ladders, probably about 2.5 meters, maybe even 3 meters high. Probably about 3 meters. So you've got to climb up and down. If you want to go to the bathroom, if you want to go and shower, if you want to go anywhere, you've got to climb down this damn ladder, walk 300 meters to where you want to be, because we were right at the back of the yard. But having said that, the yard was quiet. We've had we met some good neighbors. I had some good chuckles and laughs with our neighbors as we've done work. So the last 2 weeks we've been on the hard. We painted the bottom. We serviced the prop. We put prop speed on the prop. We'll see how that works. And we've done loads of little jobs, going through all the systems, making sure they all work. I was worried about our freshwater system because they had a very cold winter, and any water trapped in pipes can freeze, and if there's no space, can crack pipes. And touch wood, we've had very few issues. The only freshwater issue, which I think was more me pulling than any cold weather conditions in the US, was the tap, or as the Yanks call it, the faucet in our sink just started leaking. So we had to replace that with a shiny new one. What else? Yeah, so we've over the last 2 weeks we've done quite a lot of work. We fixed up the boat, got it ready to go into the water. There's still a long list of things we still have to do, but all the critical stuff is done. once we were in the water, that's when the real fun started. The engine wouldn't swing at all. It started beeping, you know, when you won't beep now. It started beeping, and then went dead. So fortunately, we're in the slings, in the slip where they launched us, and we had the yard guys, Cooper and his sidekick, come and help. They tried to jump start, but there was enough voltage in the battery. Turns out it was the wiring loom has got a connection. And the wiring loom for the engine has got a connection that took a lot of salt water. Last season when we were coming up the ICW, we had my oil, the gearbox oil cooler has got rubber end caps, and they were broken and they were leaking, and unbeknownst to all of us, it was dripping salt water onto this connection, this electrical connection, which caused all sorts of funny things, engine overheating when it wasn't hot. So once I sorted all that out, we got the end caps. I worked out that this was quite corroded, and I suspected it was the problem, and it turns out there was one of the wires. There must be about 20 or 30 wires going into this big connection, and one of the wires is broken. The moment we just shorted that out, or connected it, the engine started, and we trundled out to anchor. The other thing that was quite interesting is we cut another 10 meters off our anchor chain. Throughout the last 3 years of anchoring, and we spent months and months and months on anchor. We haven't been into any marinas, and we've on the odd occasion taken a mooring board. But the vast, I'd say 90% of our time has been at anchor. And the anchor, obviously sort of the 30 or 40 meters that we use all the time, is the one that gets hammered the most. It's the one that takes all the loads, and it rubs on the sand, and it wears down. So we've discovered that when we were pulling our anchor in, it started skipping, which is quite dangerous, because it can skip off the gypsy on the windlass, and yeah, if you get your finger in there, it will rip a finger off, no problem. So we were in Titusville because we were on a mooring board in Titusville, we dropped 20 meters of anchor chain and cut it off, and we gave it to the girl who, I think she was a cleaner actually, Titusville.
I think so.
And she went and sold it for scrap, so she would have got a couple of dollars for it. And yeah, when we looked at the windlass just the day before, yesterday morning, was that only yesterday?
It was only yesterday.
The chain looked hell of a rusty, just the part that you could see that comes out of the anchor.
That was before we went in the water.
Before we went in the water. So we dropped the anchor and the chain, which is quite tricky because we had to get it through trees, because the bow of the boat was actually in trees, in branches. So we dropped the anchor chain, and it turns out there was a couple of meters that were very, very rusty, quite flaky rusty. And so we cut off another 10 meters of chain. And I was worried because when we haul the anchor chain back up, we've got to use the start battery. And the start battery had been standing for 9 months. It was on 12.3 volts. And I thought, yeah, if we had to haul in all the chain, you run the battery down. You meant to, when we use the windlass and we're hauling in our chain, the engine's always running, so it's charging that battery. Anyway, that was also a non-event. We connected it, we got rid of another 10 meters of chain. So we're now down to 70 meters of all chain road, which is more than enough. Yeah, so we're in the water, managed to get the engine to start. We came out very, very excited to be back on the water. It's just so much nicer than being in the yard. Dave Opperman on Rev de Loon came across and helped us bend on the main. We wanted to get the main on because our canvas, all the canvas here, the seams were splitting. All these seams here were rotten. So we'd taken all the canvas off and taken it to some locals who charge us 1 hour. The minimum is 1 hour's worth of labor, $125 US. So you can do the math, times that by 2. But they stitched all the seams and all that. So we wanted to get the main on without all the canvas on, because it's just easier to get to the boom and to fiddle around with everything. So we bent the main on, and that's on, and then put all the canvas on, because we're expecting rain. In fact, we had a bit of rain this morning, but yeah, we're expecting rain, so we wanted the canvas on. So we got the main on and the canvas on. So yeah, so here we are in the water. We put our dinghy in the water, and we put the engine on the dinghy, and of course the dinghy engine wouldn't start. Fuel was just spewing out. There's a quick connect fuel clip that goes from the tank into the engine, and that was misbehaving. So I took that off and managed to shoot it overboard. So we lost the part. But fortunately, a little 1/4 inch or 6mm hose connect will sort it out. So we'll do that just now. And yeah, we're settling into sort of life on board. We've still got to put the head sail back up. Hopefully we'll do it today. It's not much wind.
The sizzling you're hearing is Laura making breakfast down there. Laura's cooking the onion. Laura, say hi.
The breakfast
Breakfast elf is cooking breakfast.
So where to from here? We have got an Amazon order in. I have to replace the gas bottle or the propane bottle for our braai, because it's, as I mentioned earlier, the one we have to just throw away. So I've just ordered a steel one on Amazon, and we'll go and have it full. That comes on Sunday, which I think is the 4th. And then next week, maybe Monday, Tuesday, depending on the weather. For those of you who don't know, the Chesapeake Bay is on the eastern coast of the US. Washington, the Potomac River runs into the Chesapeake Bay. So we are south of Washington now, and east of Richmond. So we're going to go up the Chesapeake towards Washington. We're going to go north, and we'll town hop all these little towns. There's loads of little towns up the Chesapeake. The most famous will be Annapolis, where the boat show is. And then we'll go further up, right up the Chesapeake, towards Baltimore, and then we'll go through the C&D Canal, which joins the Chesapeake River and the Delaware River. And then we'll go down the Delaware River, timing the tide, because these places there's lots of current and tide. We'll go down the Delaware River, and then I think the place is called Cape May, which is the entrance. Cape May is at the entrance to the Delaware River from the Atlantic Ocean. Then we'll go out, and we'll go up the coast, the east coast of the US. We might go in a couple of inlets. One is Atlantic City. You can go in Atlantic City, but we might just depending on the conditions, we might just bomb all the way up to Sandy Hook, which is the entrance, which is quite close to New York. So we'll go to Sandy Hook, get out of the Atlantic, and then from Sandy Hook we'll go up to Manhattan, and that's where we'll hopefully anchor under the Statue of Liberty. And at that stage I will get off the boat and fly home, and I'll take that box.
Bucket list.
That's a bucket list thing, yeah. Anchored under there. Yeah, once we're there, we'll probably spend 2 nights there, because you get a lot of wake during the day, because all the ferries going to the island. What's that island? It's not Staten Island. Ellis Island. Ellis Island and Statue of Liberty. We will then mosey up the river with Manhattan on our port side, under all the bridges, the famous bridges, and go through what they call what's it called? Hell's Gate.
Hell's Gate.
I think it's Hell's Gate, yeah, where there's a lot of currents. You've got to time that. Then you go up to Port Washington, and then you're in Long Island Sound. Once we're up in Port Washington, we'll then make plans to sail in Long Island Sound. We'll probably go as far as Martha's Vineyard, Block Island. There's lots of famous little anchorages there. We'll go up to Rhode Island, which I think is in Martha's Vineyard. I think is Rhode Island, which I think is the smallest American state, if I'm not mistaken. and then come back. The idea is we'll do that for 5 months, and then sail pretty much the same way down. We might not do the Delaware River, we might just sail into the Chesapeake and then go down back to Beaufort and Hampton, the town that's just off the Atlantic, at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. So we'll see how we do that. Again, it also depends on weather and wind. And then in September we'll bring the boat back to Deltaville. And prepare her. The current plan is to prepare her for sale, and then put her on the hard here and put her on the market and try and sell it. And we fly home. We fly home in October, but before we do that, we'll probably rent a car and drive from Deltaville up to Washington. Go and see Washington. Spend a couple of days, being tourists in Washington, and then go to the Annapolis Boat Show, if it's not too expensive, but I think it's probably $100 a head, so it's not a cheap exercise, but again, it's a bucket list thing. And then fly home middle of October. So that is the basic plan. Eight.